Welcome to Cougar Logic, the podcast where women over 35 break free from outdated health myths and embrace a life of strength, vitality, and real science. I'm Isabel, and along with my co-host Jennifer, we'll guide you through the power of carnivore and keto diets, ancestral health practices, and evidence-based strategies to help you thrive in perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. If you're ready to challenge conventional wisdom, fuel your body with what it truly needs, and live stronger than ever, you're in the right place. The content on Cougar Logic is for inspiration and information only. We are coaches, not doctors, and can't know your unique health history. Use this podcast to spark curiosity and work with a supportive healthcare provider when making health decisions. Your journey is your own, and we're here to cheer you on. Okay, so we're talking about how parenting is super hard.
Yes. Everyone says.
And we're just kind of bringing you guys into the loop.
Yeah. And nobody tells you that, a baby lasts 3 months. And then you have no instructions and you can't know what it's like until you're in it. And then you're in it.
Seriously, it's super hard. And the guilt that comes with parenting is ridiculous. Because, I personally feel guilty about everything. Like, if I'm doing the right thing for him, that I know is the right thing, right, for his life, like nutrition wise, right? Like, no, you can't have a bunch of junk, whatever. But other kids around him, and he sees them doing that and he can't do that. That makes me feel guilty, even though I know it's the right thing to do for him. But if I do the opposite, I feel just as guilty. You know what I mean? Does that happen to you?
I try and have this balance because I had a friend that never let her kids do anything, like no birthday parties, no pizza, like absolutely 100% no. And then they got middle school and they started, hoarding candy in their room, like hiding it from her that they would get at school. And when her son started driving, he would go to the grocery store because he discovered that you can just go and buy a container of frosting. And so he would literally go buy containers of frosting and eat them because his whole life, like, he was never allowed nothing. So my kid, he's a little dairy sensitive. And so I'll just say, hey, like, if you do that might make your stomach hurt. And then I leave it up to him.
For everything, though, because they don't usually make the correct choices.
I feel like having your, not feeling well is pretty good motivator all by itself. Because I have seen him go, no, I don't want otherwise, how do you learn?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think my sons often will still choose the wrong thing just because he wants it. Oh, then again, I don't think he has very many food sensitivities, so it's hard. If he eats a lot of junk, obviously he will feel badly. But the most that I've seen him do, so was it last weekend? I guess coming off of the holidays and everything, where there was a lot more food that probably he doesn't normally eat, and he ate. He said, "Mom, next week, I don't want to eat any junk until I'm going to have one treat on the weekend." And I was like, okay. And he did. He stuck with that all week. He didn't eat any, but we asked him one day during lunch, we're like, you sure you're not sneaking any dirty, bad food or junk food at school with your friends? And they're like, well, a friend of mine gave me a cookie. And I was like, okay. And he's like, but yeah, so just that one time, right? And I was like, okay. And then, of course, yesterday, because there's this market, it's called Pullman Market here in San Antonio. And they have, honestly, I go and I'm like, damn it. I wish I just ate whatever I wanted, because they have this bakery, and they have these gorgeous pastries that they make, and they put in the, in the glass, whatever. And it just looks beautiful. And honestly, anybody would look at that and be like, damn it. That looks good. I want that. You know what I mean? Obviously. And so his thing, and I'm like, okay, you're so bougie because he says, I'm not going to eat any junk until Saturday. I want to go to Pullman Market and get a pastry from there. And I'm like Pullman Market is a very high-end market. Like it couldn't have been just the typical grocery store. He wanted a pastry from that. And so who's going to say no to that, right? So I was like, go for it. So he did really well all week, and then he chose to do that. And he did that for himself. He chose that for himself. So I guess if you give him enough freedom, eventually they'll make the right choice, hopefully, especially if they know, if they're hearing.
He stayed after school for a game and he has his own little debit card. And so he went to the concession stand and he bought all the things that he doesn't usually eat, like chicken fingers and french fries and, pop and sure, who knows what kind of candy. And then the entire next day, like he felt like garbage. And I'm like, there's a reason we don't eat that. So, anyways,
That's
you had
good.
a great
Yeah.
idea this episode because
Yes.
people don't know what the carnivore diet is. And I think they
Uh-huh.
don't know there are lots of different ways you can do it.
Mm-hmm. I think some they have an idea, or not everybody, but a lot of people have an idea what it is, but they hear us the way we talk about it and they think that's what it is. And sometimes there's a lot of different variations. So I think it's good that we're going to explain that.
Yeah. And so I'll start off with like the strictest version,
Uh-huh.
which is
Uh-huh.
usually just red meat and salt. That's like the
Uh-huh.
Michaela Peterson, I mean, she was
Uh-huh.
diagnosed with
What they call the lion diet.
rheumatoid at 7. She's had all the surgeries, taken all the drugs, had a lot of mental health challenges. And then she started playing with food and she found that, that works for her. But I know you had somebody ask, like, well, can you eat fish? That depends. Fish and shellfish are in like some of the top 8 allergens along with eggs. And so that's where it's,
Some people,
why,
yeah.
yeah, like, why are you doing carnivore and what's your goal?
Yep. So I think that, so like you mentioned, the strict carnivore. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about whether a person who does not have, rheumatoid arthritis or any autoimmune issues, chooses to do the lion or, the strict carnivore like that? And so, like we said, strict carnivore is just red meat and salt,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
What do you think about a person who doesn't have any of those autoimmune issues doing that strict of a carnivore diet?
I think if that's what you want to do, like, I don't know that it's necessary for everybody to be that strict. I know a lot of carnivores, still do coffee, they do eggs, they do dairy, like you and I do. Um, and some of them, even then, like, like the steak and butter gal, they stick to just animal foods. You know, I don't know. I don't think she does coffee. And then there's more.
Who? Michaela?
No, you know,
Michaela
uh,
Peterson?
the steak and butter gal. Do you follow
Oh,
her?
yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Yes, I do.
yeah. I don't know if she does coffee.
Well, I don't know. I don't think she does actually. She's pretty strict, right? But she does butter. She does all the animal stuff. She does, yeah, I don't think she does coffee, but she does dairy.
Mhm. Yeah, because
Because I've
she,
seen her make pizza before. Hmm.
uh, and she like literally like will eat a stick of butter on video and share it, which she's got me eating butter now too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So not necessarily strict carnivore, but not also not terrible, like not bad for you if you choose to go that route, right?
Yeah, and we're gonna get into a lot of the myths, and at the end, we're gonna
Hmm.
really jump in and talk about cholesterol because I know that's most people's concern about this way of eating.
Yeah. When it comes to meat. So the second one is that we have on here is, just regular carnivore, not strict carnivore, just regular carnivore, which includes meat of all animals, right?
Hmm.
Um, whatever you want to eat, whatever animal you choose, and then also dairy. You put raw dairy?
Yes. I don't know about you, but like for a long time I was on team like we pasteurize it for a reason. And then I
Hmm.
figured out that my son actually tolerates raw dairy. The pasteurized stuff makes his stomach hurt. The raw doesn't
Okay.
because it has all the components
Nice.
that you need to digest it. And I know for myself, like if I have raw dairy, I just don't feel as heavy or sluggish after.
Okay.
So I switched from buying like plant-based cheese to now I just
Hmm.
buy cheeses and he's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we do eat dairy. We haven't done raw dairy only because we don't really have much of an access to it, and I haven't taken the time to look for it. But I'm good with raw dairy. We have been so what I learned though, we do cheese, most cheeses, or we're fine with, and heavy cream. But my son, I don't think has ever had a problem with dairy. My husband has a problem with dairy a little bit, but we switched to the A2 milk, and we don't drink milk by the glass that much, although I have been giving it to my son lately because it's really good for you. And and it's great. Like my husband can tolerate the A2 perfectly fine. So we do the A2 milk and then all the cheeses and stuff like that, especially hard cheeses and butter.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And
So regular carnivore is meat, dairy. I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
I was going to explain to people what the A2
Oh
is.
yeah.
There's
Oh yeah, that would
there's
be great.
there's different casein proteins in milk, and most dairy has A1, which people are sensitive. Most people are sensitive to, and then
Yes.
A2 is better tolerated. And the issue with casein, either A1 or A2, is if you're gluten sensitive. It's also a really good reason you're most likely dairy sensitive because the casein protein affects your small intestine the same way that wheat gluten.
Oh, okay. Nice. So A2 is more easily digestible by humans than the A1.
Yeah. And it really just depends
So
on the.
something that I want to ask you, maybe you know, because I haven't really understood it, is A1, right? And then there's A2. But then I saw a milk once and I think I bought it and I didn't like it as much, or maybe it was just me. But it wasn't A2, it was just A2. Or maybe I saw that wrong, or maybe they have.
I have never heard of this A2 that you're speaking of.
Am I saying it wrong?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing.
What do
I've
you
only
mean?
I've only seen like A2. Like, I don't know what you mean. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by
What do you
A2
mean?
A2. Mine just has like an
So
A2 on
there's
it.
no, it's only A2?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, my milk is marked A2/A2.
Okay. I think maybe it's because I've seen this on like the side of the A2 carton before where there's like the A1 cow and there's like the A2 cow. So maybe your cows were bred with like two A2 cows, maybe?
Okay.
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know either actually. So okay, but that makes sense. That could be possible, right? That's because I think I've also seen like A1, A2. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Is and
Okay, okay.
I don't have a thing to pull it out and talk about it, but
Yeah, me neither. Okay, cool. So yeah, and I have recommended that to I recommended it to my sister whose kids are pretty dairy sensitive. And she says they've done really well with it too. So that's
yeah, that's good to know. And then
hmm.
there's like the ketovore where you're mostly carnivore, but like you'll add in, you know, keto vegetables, which to
Hmm.
make it easy, things that generally grow above the ground have fewer carbohydrates than things like your root vegetables.
Hmm. Right. So keto vegetables is just green veggies pretty much, right? Because the root vegetables have a higher carbohydrate um, than green, like spinach, for example. Um, so that would be the difference. And the ketovore has a pretty good amount. You can do a pretty good amount of veggies on ketovore, right?
I mean, honestly, like all this stuff comes down to like what works for you. You know, like right now
Mm-hmm.
it's January and it's World Carnivore Month, and I live up north.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if I were going to go outside and find something to eat, there aren't really any plants out there. And so it's sort of
Yeah,
eating in alignment with what's happening in your environment. And so if you have a lot of
right.
ancestry that comes from these northern latitudes, it makes more sense in the winter for you to eat fewer plants as opposed to somebody maybe with more equatorial ancestry.
Right. So an easy way to think about it is like if you had a garden, would you be able to grow these vegetables right now? And if the answer is no, then those vegetables are probably not in season, and it's better if you don't have them at the time. But then what do you think about, like the southern states, right? So you live up north, there's definitely none of that, but there's more likelihood of having those veggies available to us year round because it's so
Yeah.
warm. Because even now, it's been really cold recently, but I'm pretty sure veggies could still grow or at least survive.
Some things that will, I mean, I've had spinach and kale like growing with snow around them. So, I
Yeah.
mean, not that I'm going to eat spinach and kale because of their oxalate content, but I'd say
Mhm.
it's possible.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So it just depends on what works for you and what you enjoy too. I will say, I hardly eat veggies now. I think that's the same for both of us. I won't turn it down if I want some for whatever reason, like they look good or I just feel like having them. I'll have them. Um, but they're not part of my everyday diet at all. And I will say that this is from experience because I think both of us used to eat, like, it's not like, oh, we just don't like veggies, so this is convenient for us. We ate a lot of veggies at one point. I mean, I know I ate a lot of veggies every single day, and so did you.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a veggie that I won't eat or I don't know how to make. Like the person at the
Uh-huh.
grocery store checkout would hate me because I would buy all these veggies and they're like, "What's this?" I'm like, "That's a rutabaga." "What's this?" "That's a turnip." "What's this?" You know, I'm like, "That's on guard."
Yeah. I mean, so it's not, so we ate vegetables, and now
Mhm.
that we don't, we feel better. I definitely feel better. I
Yeah,
was always bloated.
I don't force vegetables. Like if it sounds good, for some reason I have a thing for green. I don't know why.
For green
But
beans?
every once in a while, I'm like, you know what? I want some green beans.
Well, I mean, give me some charred green beans. Definitely I'll eat that. Or some, what do you call it? Cooked in bacon with or green beans with bacon. Oh my God, I used to love
Sure.
that.
Little bacon, little onion. Heck yeah.
But hmm but I used to make, like, I would make an entire bag of Brussels sprouts and I would eat the entire thing.
Uh-huh.
And I was okay with that. Because I enjoyed it, but I honestly was like then hurting and bloated and uncomfortable all the time. And I don't think that, I mean, I don't, now I know, like, that you shouldn't have to feel that way after you eat.
Right? I guess all these things that people think are normal, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
no. Um,
No.
yeah, I think I usually ate all the Brussels sprouts too because I was the only one who would eat the Brussels sprouts.
Yeah. Same. Yep. And the same with cauliflower. Oh my God, same with, I could eat the whole pan of like cauliflower rice, because no one else would want to eat the cauliflower rice. But then I was like, stay away from me because it's not good. So I know that now I can literally sit down and eat. When has that ever happened before now, right? Before you were carnivore, where you could sit down and eat a meal, like a pound of steak that we do now, throw down now on a daily basis, and get up from the table and not feel sluggish and sleepy and just like you're ready for a nap.
Yeah, you're not
Like
bloated, like, and you
that
just have
never happened to me before.
you have genuine energy. And I don't, like, I always say, like, most people have no idea how much better they could feel.
Seriously, there's nothing like literally sitting down to eat, eating your entire plate, and then getting up and other than not being hungry, feeling exactly the same as you did when you sat down. I don't think that anybody would understand it until they're living it, right? It's weird.
Yeah. Would I ever
Like
tell
they're probably
anyone?
like,
I was gonna say, would I ever tell anyone to jump straight into carnivore from the standard American diet? No, like you're not gonna have a good time. You're not gonna feel good. You're gonna be like, these girls are full of it. Because it takes about a month
takes a
for
little
your body to remember how to use fat for fuel, especially if you've been running on
mhm,
sugar all this time. And
sugar your
so
whole time. Yeah.
if
That's
you're
where the keto
taking,
flu comes in.
yeah. So if you're taking like prescriptions, especially, you really want to work with
Mhm.
a physician who will work with you, eh, um, because you're most likely going to need to adjust your medication because insulin's the master hormone. So it's going to start to affect other processes. I had a client who was an EMT, and so like she has, some medical knowledge, and I was
Mhm.
helping her with food, and she was just doing paleo at this time. And she's like, she's like, I really don't feel good. She talked to her doctor about reducing some of her blood sugar meds. And he's like, no, no, no. He's like, you want to stay on those. Her kids had to call an ambulance because her blood sugar was so low. They found her passed out on the floor. And so this is where I
The
say
hell?
you need a supportive physician to work with you.
A doctor who's supportive. Yeah, absolutely. How can they? Yeah, they just try to ignore the fact that she's eating differently. I don't know why they would do something like that, honestly. Like, I don't want to think that they don't care. I want to think that they don't know.
Well, that's part of it is doctors have very little nutrition training. Two, I have a friend that's a PA, and she says when you work for like a big healthcare system, they have these
Yes.
standards of
Mhm.
care. And so you're not allowed to deviate from what that standard is. And if you come in, say you're a woman like in her 40s and you have insulin resistance and your blood pressure is this, whatever their little variables are, if they can get 95% of their patients taking certain medications that fit those demographics, that office makes more money from Big Pharma. The other one is this animal based, which is Paul Saladino's group. And he makes a fair point in that
Mhm.
plants that want you to eat them are the ones that produce fruit. Because when you eat the fruit that has the seeds, and then, as a hunter gatherer, you go out and poop in nature somewhere, you're going to plant the seeds in this like little pile of compost. And so, in that perspective, I
Mhm.
get what you're saying, how plants or fruits are going to be like the least toxic of the plants to eat. However, when I'm talking fruit, I'm talking like squashes and cucumbers and zucchinis and things like that. Um, I'm a member of his group, and I don't think I've ever really seen him chime in on this, but um, in some ways, it almost feels like there's like this raw, like fruit, like sweet fruit vegan community that's adding in because people are so focused on fruit. Because let's face it, like whenever somebody tries to improve their health, they'll go to the store and be like, "Hey Jen, like I'm gonna start eating better," and they name off like 20 fruits that they bought. I got strawberries and I got cantaloupe and I got bananas and I got raspberries, and I'm like, so close.
Do you really need that much fruit?
Well, you need that much fructose in your life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
How about we
yeah,
pick one a week that you want to try?
yeah, I mean, better, like local and in season because like our ancestors,
Mhm.
yeah, if they were walking through the forest in the summer and they came across a berry patch, they're going to eat them. I would.
Oh, yeah. If a mango drops on your head, you're going to eat it.
Yeah, but this notion
For
that we
sure.
have, strawberries on the grocery store shelf 365 days out of the year, like one, strawberries in the winter aren't good.
No. And they're expensive.
How many fossil fuels go into just, shipping strawberries to wherever you are? Like
Yeah, for
you want
sure.
to eat better for the planet. Like think about these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, was it, did you share it with me or did I just see it? It was Paul Saladino, and he pulled up the Bill Gates video where he's saying, like, we have to fix cows.
Oh my gosh. Like,
I'm like, yeah, that's what we have to fix. Not the strawberries being shipped across the world.
right? But like
Stupid.
I mean, when I got my environmental science degree, I learned all these things like, you know, cows are bad for the planet and you can feed more people grains than you can feed with, one cow. Okay, but you're not getting any nutrients in those grains.
Mm-hmm.
Then, okay, so you're not hungry, but, you're nutrient deficient. Are you really winning anything? No. That
And
and
I can see, like, when the whole, when we first started cultivating, right? I can see if people are starving, um, you eat bread or you die. Oh, fuck it. I'll eat the bread, right? Like, of course. But for long-term survival, no. And now, we have been leaning on them for long-term survival. We've replaced real food with this emergency food or,
most people don't know that when we adopted agriculture with all these grains and things, our brain size got smaller, our bones got weaker. It's a reason we don't have room for our wisdom teeth anymore. Like, there's all these physiologic changes that you'll find in evolutionary biology that, no, we're not doing better because we have grains.
I mean, we live longer, but it's not because we're eating grains. We're eating longer because now there's ways to keep us alive, even though we're not, we're slowly dying. So now instead of just dying from like a really bad cold or being attacked by an animal, we are slowly dying and our life is slowly sucking. You know what I mean? Instead of having a long, vibrant life and just dying instantaneously almost, you're dying slowly over time. And it's not fun to live that way, I think.
And people think it's normal because it's so rampant, especially in America. That's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I like about Mark Sisson. He's like, live long, drop dead. That's what your
Yeah.
ancestors would have done. People used to die from broken bones and infections, which are things that we could easily fix today. But now you have people spending
Mm-hmm.
last decades of their life
Yeah.
tied to pill
On the
bottles.
verge of death.
Yeah.
A lot of these people that are severely diabetic, if they don't take their medicine, they could die at any time, at any point. So you're just keeping them alive, but not really thriving, you know? And nobody, I wouldn't want to live that way, honestly. I mean, if I had no other choice, but I do, I have another choice. And I have another choice because of the choices that I make when it comes to my nutrition.
Well, that's the thing, though, is like everyone has a choice, but as you and I know, like the food pyramid, the my plate, that's not going to work for most people, especially when you consider 6.8% of Americans are metabolically healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're telling you to put starchy carbs and grains, like you don't have the insulin sensitivity for that.
Yep. And so when you say we have a choice, and you're right, like we all have a choice, but there's a huge problem because if you don't know, right? So it's like you're making the wrong choice, not by choice, but because you're lacking the knowledge of what can you eat, and I've had people like comment on my Instagram before, which that I really appreciate. And obviously I have this fear of going against what people's doctors tell them, right? Because I don't want anybody to turn around and be like, well, because of her, obviously, right? I think we all have that, and we still have to give doctors the respect that they need. Otherwise, we can easily get sued and literally be in trouble ourselves, even though, you know. So, but I've had people comment on just my stuff that it's like, listen to her, eat protein, because I was diabetic, or I am diabetic, and protein's what's helping me. But I have to be careful because I also have high cholesterol, so I can only eat chicken. And I'm like, okay, great. At least you're making the changes, but I just want to tell them like, okay, that's not. So I think this is a good
Yeah.
segue toward the cholesterol conversation, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like chicken is peasant food because we feed them so much corn and soy that their fatty
Mm-hmm.
acid profile looks more like vegetable oil, which, if you guys are in the same corner of the internet that Isabel and I are on, but, there's lots of talk, thanks to, Robert Kennedy and the other doctors we follow, of why these oils are so problematic. I mean, and so if you've ever been on a diet where you couldn't lose that last 10 to 15 pounds, it could have been because those seed oils are embedded in your fat cells. And when your body tries to burn it, it doesn't recognize it.
And so I think the thing about chicken too is people, they think it's like healthy, which it's not that it's unhealthy, but it's very difficult to find good quality chicken. Like it really is, more so than meat, than like red meat and anything else, or even fish. Like it's not that easy to find free range, good quality chicken. All of it is tainted with soy and corn.
Yeah. I mean, like, even if I go to the farmer's market and, get this chicken that's been, blessed by the Buddha and, like, raised in the most pristine, like, chicken conditions, it's like $50 chicken. And it's a regular size chicken, so it's little.
It's smaller, yeah. It's not pumped up with like steroids, so it's smaller than the regular one. So you're paying more and you're getting less.
I don't think most people know that we now grow chickens twice their normal size and half the amount of time it takes a regular chicken to grow. It's disgusting.
You know, eh, I don't know if this might just be in my head, but I've seen so I remember like seeing young girls in middle school, even no, not even middle school, elementary, right? Fourth, fifth graders, that I'm like, wow, like they have full grown adult woman bodies. And I'm like, that has to be the chicken.
It's chicken. I mean, we put growth hormones in dairy, you know?
That's not normal. Like, I don't know. They look like full grown women and they're 11.
The way I heard it explained once was when your body is nutritionally starving, which the
Mm-hmm.
American diet will do to you,
Mm-hmm.
um, it sends a signal to your body of like, oh my gosh, like we need to hurry up and we need to get these people to puberty so that they can reproduce. So this whole, species doesn't go extinct, as opposed to,
Okay.
like having puberty later. Like we need to, like the body is saying, like we need to hurry up and like get them to that reproductive phase
Before
because
we die of starvation.
yeah.
Okay. That's pretty crazy to me.
I haven't researched it, but I heard that somewhere. I forget where once, but it made sense.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I do think that chicken really. Oh, and so what you were saying about nutritionally starving, right? That's an important point, I think, for people to understand the difference between you can be overweight, significantly overweight, and your body is still starving because you're significantly overweight because of calories, right? Because of overconsumption of food, if you want to call it food, but you're undernourished with nutrient dense food, like no nutrients are going into your body. And so you're still starving your body. And I think that is, I don't know how complicated that is to explain to people, because obviously, like, if they see themselves, oh my God, I'm so fat, I'm not starving. Obviously, I'm not nutrient deficient. Yes, you are nutrient deficient. You're just not calorie deficient. Honestly, like, you can eat a lot of food that's doing nothing good for your body, but adding fat.
Even then, like, I've worked with women helping them lose weight, and not once have I said you need to eat less. I find a lot of women who
Yeah,
are
I agree.
like really overweight, they
Yeah.
eat nothing. I'm like, I would starve
Yeah.
on what you eat. And
Yeah.
so it's like
I have seen that.
this whole hormonal thing where your body, one, is like making sugar through your liver. You know, you're probably insulin resistant because you're eating low calorie things. Like, I see this girl at the
Hmm.
grocery store and I just want to come up to her and be like, I see the lean cuisine and the low fat yogurt and the Diet Coke in your cart. And I get where you're trying to go, but that's not how you do it, right? You've seen that person.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. And I want to talk to them, but I feel like, oh my God, I'm gonna get slapped.
Like, let's put this back. Let's go get you some beef and butter,
Yeah.
you know?
Honestly. Or when you see the girl that's all like full of acne, and I'm like, I know how I can help you.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah, that breaks my heart, honestly.
it does. I mean, because we all know somebody who's struggled with something. We watch somebody slowly die from something. Like as a kid, like I watched
Hmm.
my grandmother, who was my favorite person in the world, slowly wither away from cancer. And if I could go back in time and knock that, Ensure out of her hands, or that fast food that they fed her because, she was nauseous from chemotherapy and that was all that she wanted, I would do it, but I can't.
Yeah. I have this one client that that she well, I have lots of clients that like that, but this one in particular kind of just kind of breaks my heart. She she did barely okay, so I think it was some, you know, over 200 pounds. And she tells me that I'm like, okay, so what are you eating? And I don't really like to eat breakfast, but I have a cookie with my meds. And I'm like a cookie? Like a real cookie? Yeah, but it's because I don't like to eat breakfast. So the first thing you have every day is a cookie and your medicine. Yeah. Okay, what do you have for lunch? And it's like a sandwich. And that's no food. Like that's barely any food. And she's significantly overweight. And so you're starving yourself and
Yeah.
still not losing weight. Like you're just eating the wrong foods. Like there's no nutrient in what you're eating. And that's why you're struggling the way that you're struggling. And it's so difficult sometimes to get them to not, I don't even know. Like
Well,
it's very difficult to get her to make it any change at all.
like we've been sold this, it's just calories in and calories out. And I'm like, no, because when you eat cookies or steak or broccoli, biochemically, your body's going to do different things with those different kinds of calories.
Yeah,
The same is true
absolutely.
for exercise. Like it's January and everybody's on their Energizer Bunny treadmill. Like, I'm going to go as fast as I can and burn as many calories. And I'm like, you're not burning fat. You're just burning sugar, which is going to make you crave sugar. And you're going to eat more than you need to replace. And then you're going to gain weight.
I remember as a teenager checking how many calories like a cookie had that I ate, and then getting on the treadmill, hoping to burn the cookie that I ate, and I never did. I never burned enough calories to burn the one cookie that I ate, not to mention all the other things I ate that day.
Even then, it's like,
It didn't work out that it just doesn't work that way.
it's not what you burn in, say, like a 60-minute period of exercise. What do you burn the other 23 hours of the day? Like, that's the
Yeah.
bigger chunk to focus on. It's
Mm-hmm.
getting your body to just burn fat as a primary fuel source. And then weight loss is super simple and you're not hungry.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna put this out there for everybody. Strength training. Put puts muscles on your body and helps you burn fat throughout those 24 or 23 hours that we just mentioned. Right? So your body has more uh, to have to work with, right?
I mean, the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolic rate, the more places your body has to store glucose in the form of glycogen. That's going to help with your
Right.
blood sugar. And the more muscle you have, the longer you live. So please skip the treadmill, go lift the weights.
Seriously. Something I always tell people, like my clients and stuff, is like, okay, when you sit down to go to the bathroom, you are technically squatting, right? So do you want to be able to do that on your own for the rest of your life? That's like as simple as that, really. Like, if the answer is yes, you need muscle on your legs and on your butt and on everywhere, right? If the answer is no, fine, keep running, don't have any muscle. And someday you're going to need a walker to get up from the toilet. Hopefully you have a walker and it doesn't have to be a person that has to help you up and down from the toilet.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of what it's all about. I mean, people, they'll pass away because, they fall and they can't get back up.
Break a hip.
Like, that's a really serious thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, the myth, I'd say the first is people think this way of eating is expensive. Because, I mean, let's face it, you go to the store, eggs, butter, and beef have shot up astronomically in the last, 5 years. But when I go shopping, that's really all I buy. So when you can imagine that 98% of the rest of the grocery store, you're never going to buy again, suddenly your budget is wide open. And so you can afford.
Honestly.
Yeah. And you'll find that you no longer eat 6, 7, 8 times a day. I mean, I don't know about you, but I might eat twice, sometimes 3 times.
Same. I eat twice a day. We all in my house eat mostly just twice a day. And I mean, you're not spending money on anything else. You're buying eggs, butter, and ground beef steak. I mean, and the thing is, it also it depends on how much of a variety you need, which I will say, I think that at the beginning, people tend to need a little more variety in their diet, right? So they might end up having to buy more other kinds, like they might need fish, they might need salmon, they might need, and as you go along, you're just like, meh, ground beef all day, every day is fine. So I think it just depends also where you are on your journey, but depending on how much variety you need on a daily basis, it's going to be more or less that you need to buy. I can easily go to the grocery store and buy a stick of butter, or not a stick of butter, but a couple of sticks of butter, eggs, steaks, and 10 pounds of ground beef, and be good for 2 weeks, or not 2 weeks, a week and a half, maybe.
Yeah. And that's
so.
Plus, when your health gets better, then, you're not spending all your money on doctor bills and prescriptions and
medicine,
other things that, likely aren't helping you.
Mm-hmm. Plus, soda's pop is like, I think like $10 for a 12-pack of soda.
Wow.
Just don't buy that. Buy ground beef instead. So yeah, it's pretty, I mean, the junk's expensive too, I think. I mean, maybe because we see it differently. Like, to me, a pack of cookies is not worth that, because I don't think I wouldn't pay $1, much less 5.
Well, I mean, it's like, yes, it's going to hit all the pleasure centers of your brain. It's going to give you that reward, which Big Food has done this on purpose. Because Philip Morris, the tobacco people, bought, I forget which big food company, but they went in using their cigarette science to make things highly addictive. And so
they're experts at making you get addicted to stuff.
There's a reason why you can't eat just one of a whole lot of things, because it lights up your brain like a pinball machine.
Mm-hmm.
So Another belief people have is that it's unhealthy. Low carb's unhealthy, carnivore is unhealthy. And this is one of those things, because I know you hear this story all the time, like I do. Somebody can go keto, low carb, carnivore. They go to their doctor, their A1C is down, their blood pressure's better, like all of their like blood work is beautiful. And the doctor will
Hmm.
say, well, don't do that. It's not healthy.
That's crazy, right? Like, how, why? It's
There's such a
absolutely crazy.
disconnect.
Yeah. But also, I will say, like, for example, um, everything else, and I'll, because I see that in our blood work. Everything else is great, right? Our A1C is great. Everything's great. Our cholesterol is higher than other people's cholesterol. And they cling on to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because of this one thing, you are going to die. And I'm like, am I though? Like, are you sure about that? Because it doesn't make any sense, right? Like, that everything else, how, if cholesterol is bad, how is it that everything else is imperfect? And when everything else is perfect, your cholesterol increases.
Here's the thing, as you know, cholesterol is not bad, has never been bad. Go back to the 1950s with a gentleman by the name of Ansel Keys, and I feel like using the word gentleman is too kind. Um, and he comes out with this like, oh, I went to 7 countries. I looked at saturated fat consumption, heart disease, and there's a correlation.
Mm.
Actually, he went to 21 countries. He threw out two-thirds of his data in order to make this claim that saturated fat and cholesterol cause heart disease.
He forced his data to line up the way he wanted it to line.
And he was funded by the sugar industry. Before the 1900s, heart disease was almost non-existent. And then Procter and Gamble gave the American Heart Association a big sum of money to promote Crisco as heart healthy. And so, so then like heart disease begins to take off. And then we start bringing in, these artificial lights, reduced sun exposure, which, if you get into the book I'm going to mention here at the end, all of these things matter. And so heart disease, along with all our processed food intake, it just begins to climb. And so they tell you, oh, you want to have low cholesterol. Well, has heart disease gone down since they said that? No.
No,
Well, with low
it's
cholesterol?
only gotten worse.
No. And then what are all the things your body needs cholesterol for? Your brain, the protective coating around all of your nerves, all need cholesterol. All of your hormones and production needs cholesterol. It helps your immune system in that, like I was reading this morning, it can actually help prevent viruses from entering the cell and making you sick. And so the lean mass hyperresponders like us get sick
Hmm.
less. Um, every cell wall structure in your body needs cholesterol. And we know that people with higher cholesterol live longer. So are you telling me that if you lower your cholesterol, all of those things are going to get made?
Yeah, like, but so the problem here is, how do we get people? I mean, we're doing something about it, right? Like having this podcast, talking about this, telling people like cholesterol is not the enemy that they want you to think it is. We're doing something. But it's, how do we get that more people to understand that? You know what I mean? Like, it's such a complicated thing, right? Everybody immediately hears cholesterol and is terrified. Everyone, everyone around me is like, oh, right? You're just like, no, guys, like, cholesterol is good for you. It's necessary for
Yeah.
you to have, for everything. People with Alzheimer's, the majority are coming off of the low fat era, right? The 80s are, were adults in in the 80s where it was like low fat craze. And now Alzheimer's, dementia, right? Right. So all these people that have dementia and Alzheimer's and all these things now, because they're, in they're elderly now, are coming from this like low fat craze era. And so let's think about that, right? And why did that happen?
Well, even then, like the low fat era, that's when they had to come out with Prozac because everyone started, not having such great mental health and like not feeling very well.
Mental health.
Nobody's eating any fat. Your neurons need cholesterol to support them.
Mm-hmm.
That, and there are good doctors out there. However, if you and I can read up on this stuff and learn about it and understand it, like why are they still preaching, this data that's 75 years old? Like if your patients aren't getting better,
Seriously.
like I thought do no harm was your first thing.
Seriously. No, for real. How do they not how are they not expected to keep up with new science that comes out? Or do they not care because if they find out, then they won't,
Well,
they
I'm
won't sell their
sure,
meds anymore?
like at one of the conferences I went to, there was a functional medicine doctor who was talking about, sort of the fear that they have in working with their patients because they take more of a preventative, holistic approach. And so, say somebody comes in and you tell them to sleep more, which sleep is good for everything. But say 6 months from now, they die. Well, you end up, in a court case, they decide to sue, and who's going to walk in to prosecute you? It's going to be the Harvard, doctors. They're going to be like, well, you should have put them on the government plan of, whole grains, low fat, gave them a statin, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one, I think many are afraid to deviate from script, if you will. There's those that don't know. And then there's those that I've seen, they're so like stuck in their ego of like, oh, I'm a doctor. I know everything because I went to school and I'm like, okay, so I went to school and they told me like electric cars were good and cows were bad for the planet but learning is going, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and the whole point to science is that we're gonna keep learning. Like it's never settled. Science is never settled. There's always something new that comes up. So it just because, yeah, sure, right. Let's just say Ansel Keys wasn't evil and he accidentally made people think that cholesterol was bad. Doesn't matter because science continues to explore these things and new evidence pops up. And we need to look at that new evidence and allow people to make the choice for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the nutrition and health books I've read, like one, we skip the individuality of things. We just assume that everyone is exactly the same and we're going to tell everybody to eat the same. Your blood work should be the same. Like it should all just be the same, which I think is mistake number one.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it's, like if you've read like Paul Saladino's book on the carnivore diet, it's very sciencey, well researched. I mean, heck, his chapter on broccoli alone will have you rethinking like everything you ever heard. And so it's yeah, like we know stuff, but like in the grand scheme, we don't know everything. And I don't know what I'm trying to say here. It's just like this, I think is why we're doing this podcast is we just want you to ask questions. We want you to sort of just start thinking about these things, like explore, like, start to notice like, oh, I had I ate that and now I have a headache. Maybe there's a correlation.
100% put how you feel ahead of what the doctor told you to. I mean, if you don't feel well doing what, you know, the doctor prescribed, whatever, do you feel better this way? Like, I think that's a huge thing to think about there too. Like, okay, if I'm going to die at 90 years old because I had a heart attack from eating too much meat, or I'm going to die at 100 years old feeling like shit and on insulin for the last 50 years, I'll take 90 from a heart attack from eating too much fat and cholesterol. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
right?
like when I first went carnivore, like I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do it for a week because, my heart's gonna explode in my chest and all these horrible things are gonna happen that has been drilled into us. And then
That happened.
after a couple of days, I was like, hot damn, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
This
if
is good. Yeah.
this is gonna kill me, like, let's go.
Kill me now.
Gonna have a lot of fun before I get there, right?
It doesn't make sense, right? I mean, unless it just doesn't make sense that you can feel better but be dying on the inside slowly, or you're gonna have a heart attack tomorrow, even though you feel fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing I think we tend to not recognize or, like you go to the doctor and they draw your blood and they give you like these numbers. First, they'll tell you like you're normal. Always get the numbers because normal is based on an unhealthy population. So if your numbers are like more towards, the ends of the spectrum, I would just keep that in mind, like keep an eye on it. If like, especially if something's not working for you. Dr. Sean Baker, he doubled his cholesterol in 24 hours by doing a long fast and an intense workout. And that's the thing that we also, overlook is that cholesterol is an energy delivery system and
Wait,
that
so there was no food involved in that
no
experiment?
food at all. Your food has very little, like, doesn't even really have much of an effect on your cholesterol because your liver makes cholesterol. And why is your body going to make something it doesn't need? It's not.
So he raised his cholesterol by not eating and exercise. I mean, I don't even know what that tells us right now. Like this,
Well,
that's
cholesterol,
crazy.
cholesterol is a fat, and fat isn't soluble in blood because it's mostly water. And so it is bound to either your LDL or your HDL lipoproteins so that it can be transported. And so because he's been carnivore for like 8 years, not eating and then working out super hard, his body is going to need more of that cholesterol to transport those fats to
Mm-hmm.
his muscles.
According to this, right, if potentially we were under the assumption that cholesterol is bad for you and we're going to die if we have high cholesterol, then that would tell us that we should eat and not exercise.
Which is also the opposite of what we hear, right?
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, right? Like if that was the solution to cholesterol, then that would not have happened. Like if exercise, diet and exercise, or yeah, diet and exercise is what caused cholesterol to lower, then that would not have happened, like to him.
Yeah.
This just shows that we don't even actually know what makes cholesterol go up and down.
Well, I mean, we know like your body
I feel
needs
like they
it.
don't know.
Well, I mean, it's like what's out there in the mainstream. Yeah, and I think that's why, there's so many diets of, like eat plants, eat meat, eat
Mm-hmm.
carbs, eat fat. I think it's
Yeah.
all on purpose so that people are so overwhelmed and confused that they just give up,
Mhm.
you know?
So this guy, let me look up his name really quick so that he did an experiment where he ate Oreos
Mm-hmm.
in to lower his cholesterol. So what happened is that he decided that he was going to lower. He's keto, right? He's a very thin, very lean man, and his cholesterol was a certain amount. And then he said, I'm going to eat Oreos and see what happens to my cholesterol. So he would eat a certain amount of Oreos every day. And then he checked his cholesterol again after a certain amount of time, and his cholesterol had dropped.
Yes. And that's because one, like plant sterols, which are like plant compounds that are like cholesterol, they compete with animal fats for absorption in your intestine.
Mm-hmm.
And
There he is.
two, we know that seed oils
Yeah.
lower your LDL
Norwich.
cholesterol. Like, we know that. They lower your
Oh.
cholesterol. That's why they're promoted as heart healthy, even though they increase inflammation and they increase your risk for heart disease
And diabetes.
and diabetes and glaucoma and all the problems of the modern world.
I mean, this is what we're saying doesn't make any sense. His name's Dr. Norwitz, Nick Norwitz, by the way. Have you heard of him?
I saw that study because I think everyone was sharing it back when he did that, of how his
Yeah.
Oreos work better than a statin. Not
Yeah.
saying you should go out and eat Oreos to lower your cholesterol. One, your cholesterol, cholesterol is not your problem. And the sugar and the seed oils are going to make you have heart disease anyways. So don't do that.
Yeah. I don't think that was the point. The point of the study was to show pretty much that it's not necessary that one, statins, no, like statins are garbage. One. Two, that I don't think that the high fat diet or the keto diet that he's on isn't really the thing that's going to make or break his cholesterol.
No. Now
He was
somebody
just trying to show that it has nothing to do with it.
like a better, I think, indicator for your heart disease risk is your A1C, because that's a 3-month snapshot of what your blood sugar's been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Or C-reactive protein, which is a marker of inflammation. Your triglycerides, which if you are on the process of losing body fat, your triglycerides will be high. So beware of that. Also, get a coronary artery calcium scan, because that will show you actually how much plaque you have. And so one of the things that's interesting is that your LDL cholesterol helps your body make vitamin K2, and vitamin K2 keeps the calcium out of your arteries and puts it in your bones where it should be. So
What it's supposed to be.
this whole thing of like, you need to bring down your LDL cholesterol is also going to bring down your K2, which is going to increase your chances of having atherosclerosis, right?
Yeah. So I'm glad that you brought up that calcium, the atherosclerosis test thing. What is it called again? That test that you said we should have?
It's called a coronary artery calcium scan, or you'll see a lot of people refer to it as CAC, and they'll call it a CAC score.
Okay. Will any doctor do that for you?
I don't know, because I generally try and avoid most doctors.
Yeah. I wonder if we ask them. So for example, if we go to the doctor and the doctor's like, well, your cholesterol's high, whatever. We're like, okay, can we have this test done to see what they would say if they
Honestly,
would
I
do it?
think,
They don't offer it. They don't ask you to get it done.
no, they don't. I mean, you may have to pay extra for it. I'm sure
Insurance probably won't cover it.
a lot of it comes down to like, will your insurance cover it? Which
Yeah.
is a whole other kettle of fish. Like, that's wrong with everything.
Yeah. Insurance needs to just, yeah. Okay. So what was the next thing that on our list of not sustainable on the
Oh,
list of myths?
yeah. The whole like, it's bad, meat is bad for the planet is like one of the biggest lies.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
one, agriculture currently puts out more greenhouse gases than animals do. Two, their biggest polluter is industry and fossil fuels. Three, you have a cow out on the pasture. The cow poops. It allows the pasture to grow. As the pasture grows, it pulls in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And so beef is the most carbon friendly thing you can eat.
Well, not only that, but and this is this is like it's just common sense, right? Like animals were here already. They're on the planet. They exist on the planet. We didn't invent them.
There used to be more bison than there currently are cows.
Right. We are supposed to share the planet with them.
Yeah, they have us blaming nature for being nature while we
Yeah.
ignore what industry does.
Yeah. Like that doesn't make any sense.
And people buy it. Oh my gosh.
Do they really? Like, I really wonder if they do buy it though. I feel like maybe they don't buy it as much as we think they do.
A lot of them do. Yeah. I mean,
And it doesn't make any sense.
it's like science. It's nature. Like blaming a cow for like being like outside is like blaming a fish for being in the water.
Yep. And are they not supposed to fart? Only we can? I don't get it.
Even then, rice puts out more methane than cows do.
There you go. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, and then let's assume, right, that we all go vegan because meat is bad for the planet. What are we supposed to do with the animals that we're not eating?
I mean,
Are
it's so crazy.
are we just gonna kill all the animals then?
Like, if you're gonna go plant
So they don't exist?
like the first thing you have to do is you have to completely remove absolutely everything from a piece of ground. So not the plants, the insects, the soil microbes get destroyed, the soil structure gets destroyed. More animals die growing your soybeans than if you just had one cow, because you're not going to go out and get the mice and the rabbits and the baby birds and all those things out of the way of the tractor. They're just going to run it over the field.
Oh yeah.
And then you
Plus,
come in with the pesticides, which are going to run off into the water, which then is going to affect the fish and the frogs. And then the big birds are going to come in and eat those. And so
their argument just does not make any sense.
Like agriculture,
like the whole thing,
the most polluting industry, if you think about it, because what other industry goes outside and purposefully sprays poison on the planet?
Seriously. I mean, it's just one thing to have like your own garden patch.
Totally different.
Totally different than these giant grain and corn fields. It's not the same at all.
And your tax dollars go to subsidize those crops. So your government is making the food that's making you sick cheaper when you buy it.
Because they want you poisoned.
I'm convinced of that. The more I read, the more I'm like, they know, and they've always known.
Just stop reading. Just kidding.
Oh, it's like, that's the thing though, is like, whenever I teach classes, I always ask, I'm like, who here trusts the government? No one ever says yes. But you go to the grocery store, who do you think decided that could be on the shelf? The government you don't trust.
And no one ever says yes, but yet they follow the government guidelines when it comes to nutrition.
Mm-hmm. Which were created by the industry that's selling you the junk.
Yeah. It's all just one big...
I mean, if it's happening, I wouldn't say it's a conspiracy.
Yeah, no, I guess you're right. It's actually happening, so it's not a conspiracy. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I don't know.
So I think that's what you mentioned something earlier about cholesterol allowing you to, not allowing viruses in to, okay, but we are already moving back off topic. And I think maybe that's why my husband and my son never got COVID. To this day, have never had COVID.
Yeah.
I had COVID one.
Like
but
I rarely get sick. Like this is me right now. Like 2 days ago, I woke up with a scratchy throat, which I posted on my Instagram. Like I went and sat in the sauna. Yeah, my throat's a little my throat's a little scratchy right now. That's why I'm sipping on this tea. But I mean, this is me sick.
This is you sick. So you're sick right now? Had
I
no
don't know,
idea.
maybe.
Uh-huh.
Got a little something.
A little itchy throat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is. So I really do think that we need to figure out a way for people to just kind of become better informed when it comes to these topics. And also the way that it affects us hormonally as women in our mid 30s to late 50s.
Yes. I mean, we live in a world where most people are metabolically unhealthy. They've got, like more than one or two health conditions usually. Why would you expect perimenopause or menopause to be a smooth transition when the rest of your body is not working well?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Reading like Dr. Bright's book, like when we went to KetoCon that year and listened to those women talk about menopause, they're like, yeah, it happened, no big deal.
We
And
had no symptoms. Yeah.
and ultimately she comes to the conclusion that, yeah, it's all this. She's like, perimenopause isn't real in that it's not a real thing. It's caused by your high carb, insulin resistant lifestyle.
That's quite a topic, though. I don't know that people will believe that there is no such thing.
I know, because so many women experience it. Like people have
Mm-hmm.
hot flashes. And, one of the things I thought was a trip in her book was, one of the symptoms that women often have is, their hoo-ha dries out. Well, reading her book, I learned that if you took birth control pills for a number of years, there are cells that get destroyed by that. And that is why you end up with a dried out hoo-ha.
Wow.
Things they
Oh,
don't
well,
tell you.
that's no, they don't tell you that for sure. I mean, yeah, I was actually, oh, well, you sent it to me. I
Mhm.
think the one about the birth control causing hypothyroidism in
And
women.
all of like the nutrient deficiencies, like a lot of your B vitamins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Anyways,
Well, yeah. Anyway, what was the
all
next
those.
topic? Huh?
I think that's. Oh, You need carbs for fitness.
Body makes and stores glucose. So, okay. So, absolutely our body needs glucose. Can we agree on that?
We can agree on.
But our body needs it so much, in fact, that it can make its own. So we don't need to ingest it. Our body creates it from the food that we eat. Yes?
Yes.
Which is why we don't need it. We don't have to consume it. Our body makes it.
Even then, like normal blood sugar is 1 teaspoon, which is not very much. And that's about 5 grams. And so, you go get your mocha schmocha, venti, whatever that's got, I don't know, some astronomical amount of sugar in it. Like, like, no, you don't like coffee, you like sugar,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, because for every amount you add that's over that 5 grams, your body has to figure out what to do with it.
What
And it
to do
has
with
to
it. And then
figure
it gets stored as fat.
as body fat. And then people are like, oh, like, well, I do sugar free. That's even worse because that messes with your body's ability to regulate your blood sugar even more,
Mm-hmm.
that it actually puts you at a higher risk for gaining weight than if you just had the one with the sugar.
Yeah. And also you're thinking that you're not eating, because it's sugar free, you eat more of it and it's you end up eating even more of it.
Your body releases insulin when something sweet touches your tongue. So
Right.
you're artificially sweetened, whatever. And so it thinks there's sugar on the way, but it's,
And so it releases.
yeah, so it has all the,
So
it
you're
releases
getting the insulin
insulin.
spike regardless.
All your glucose is going to get stored away somewhere, but the sugar never arrives, which then is going to trigger your cravings for more carbohydrates because whenever your blood sugar drops, that activates the fight or flight response for your body to be like, we need to eat.
Yeah. So definitely the even the no sugar, but yeah, we don't need to add sugar to our body. We can handle that without the thing. The next one is ketones and fat are better fuel source. So that's not a myth. That is true. Um, we work better when we run off of fat than when we run off of glucose, and we can go longer periods of time.
Well, you can store far more body fat than you will ever store in glucose. And so, like, there's some of these, really big endurance athletes, like Zach Bitter, like, comes to mind. He's like an ultra marathon runner. And
I
they've
think
done,
I just saw him on Instagram recently.
did you? And they've done studies with him. And yes, in fact, I mean, yes, he will use glucose while running, but he also uses a higher percentage of fat during that time as well because he eats in a way and he's training in a way for his body to be able to do that.
Well, because he's also going for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's one of the things like a lot of endurance athletes run into is, they're fueling with carbs, they're training with carbs, like, like the big box of pasta, like the night before or whatever they're gonna race,
Mm-hmm. I
and
remember doing that.
you burn out of that so fast. A lot of it turns into like this mental fatigue. And so then you're more likely to have like a misstep or you just sort of lose that internal like drive and motivation because your body is needing like that sugar and it's not getting it. As opposed to if you're running more on fat, you're going to have that fuel source for longer. Because hasn't he done some of his races fasted?
I don't know. I don't know him, but and I don't know if we're talking if the one that I recently heard about is the same one too. But yeah, I saw somebody JT talking about um his training was insane and he did it on a carnivore diet. So and this is a long distance endurance runner. Like this is the one thing that nobody's really touched.
Yeah, I mean, like, Sean Baker. I was thinking this morning of like any pictures that you and I have together for,
Mhm.
like, I was watching our
Sean Baker's
podcast intro. That's the only one we have is you and I with Sean Baker.
where's Sean Baker? That man.
But, anyways, like, he does not look like he's, missing muscle mass by any means.
He's built like a mountain.
Yeah, it's a literal mountain.
He is giant. Honestly, isn't he giant? In a good way.
Yes, he's tall and he has a physique. Yes.
Yes, he. So yeah, the carnivore diet has done very well for him.
Oh my gosh, we're giggling like a bunch of girls.
I know
Um,
he's not gonna want to talk to us anytime soon if we act like this. Well, we behaved when we were in front of him.
I'll say for me, like I followed like that primal fitness for years in that, I spend most of my time at a lower heart rate so that my body can burn fat. I do like high intensity things. I lift weights once in a while, but one of the real, I don't know, it's interesting to me because some of you know, like I do Taekwondo and I'm generally like the oldest one in the class. And one night I was sparring this guy who's, about my height. He's got pretty good, muscles on him. And as we're sparring, he bends over to like catch his breath. And I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, I'm like, how old are you? He's like, I'm 17. Like, how is
Did you
some,
know he was?
no,
How old
I'm
did
like,
you think
how
he
is some
was?
50-year-old woman like
I
doing
know.
better at this? Like, I'm not sucking wind. You are. And you're like less than half my age.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and you don't do any like long distance running, right? You just do like
No,
um
don't put me
you know
down.
most more no. Good. Absolutely
I
not.
tried the Maffetone like running method, like super low heart rate, and I can
Mm-hmm.
do it. It's just boring.
It
Like
is
I'd
very boring.
rather go downhill skiing, spar in taekwondo, a little bit
Yeah.
adrenaline junkie, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I don't do any I haven't done any real running in years and years. I just pretty much do strength training and walk a lot.
Yeah. Like I'll do sprints once in a while, which the thing I think that's
Hmm.
interesting is the next day I crave them. And I'm like,
You want
nope.
more? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I gotta wait a week. But I'm like, but no, like I want to go run now. I don't know.
Yeah, they do feel really, really good. You know what I've noticed? So I don't do sprints that often anymore either, but I love them and they do feel really, really good. And it's almost like at the end of the sprint, your body, it's like this yummy pain, right? That you're like your body needs is trying to get all the oxygen back. I get that same feeling when I swim across the pool underwater the whole way, or like I try to swim across the pool underwater as long as I can. So if I try to come back and not come up for air,
Hmm.
when I do come, have that same, my body has the same reaction as when I sprint.
Interesting.
I love it. I don't do it that much either because I don't go swimming that much, but when I go swimming, I always do it because it feels so good afterwards. Like when I come out, I'm like, and that just, I don't know, it feels really, really good. And it's the
Wow.
same thing that you feel at the end of a sprint.
I don't know. I used to be on a swim team and I did not have that pleasure feeling that you
I I like it. I mean, it's the same feeling as after a sprint where you're just like trying to get all the air in the, no, you don't get that?
if you say so.
I
I'm
like
happy
it.
for you.
I like how it feels. I'm just like, oh, it hurts good. It hurts good. Okay, I'm weird. I know.
No, we're all weird. So
I guess I just like pain because the whole tattoo things too.
Mhm.
I really like how it feels. The pain that comes with a tattoo.
Well, I isn't it like after a while, like your body just starts to make endorphins, like when you're in intense
I
pain.
guess, yeah. So maybe that's what it is, but I like it. Like anytime I've gotten a tattoo, like it hurts, but I'm like, yeah. I feel good.
It hurts. I'm I'm kind of like that when I get massage. Like you could just drive your truck over me, and I'd be like, "Ugh, do it again."
I can try over me.
Yeah,
Oh, God.
I don't know. It just feels good. Yeah, like a lot of times I get in trouble. Like I'll go to the gym, and I don't know. Like I get excited lifting like heavy weights.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like I love it.
And why do you get in trouble?
Because
Because
the
you
next
drop
day
them?
I'm like, why did I do that?
Oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Especially when you feel good in there and you're just like letting it, piling it on. That feels good.
It does feel good. Yeah.
Hmm. So one of the things I think is so it's always hard, right, to get yourself into the gym. It's always hard to get yourself into the gym, right? A lot for most people. It's like, oh, I have to go work out and go work out. But you never regret it. Like afterwards, you feel better every single time. It's weird, right? Because why is it that people kind of fight doing things that they know are going to make them feel good afterwards? Like getting there is hard, but once you're there, it feels so good. Or once you get it done, it feels so good. And you know that's going to happen. And still, you're just kind of like, oh, I don't want to go.
I feel like a lot of people, one, like we said before, are chasing weight loss. Two, they think they need to get on some treadmill stair climber and just go
That's
as hard as
boring.
they can for like an extended period of time.
Hmm.
And yeah. Like if that was what I was doing at the gym, that would suck. I wouldn't want to go either. But I go in there and I lift weights and I start to see like little muscles start to pop out, and that motivates me to keep doing it. And then I actually crave lifting weights.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
You
there's
know,
no doubt. It's actually, yeah, I tell that to my mom all the time because she'll be like, she'll call me and I'm working out. She's like, I hate you. Why are you always working out? It's like she's criticizing me, but like in a funny way, kind of like she knows that it's good that I'm doing it, but she's just picking on me. Um, and I'm like, I have to. I just like I literally don't feel well if I don't. And I think the more you do, you'll realize that that's how it is. Same thing with food. You crave the good stuff, the more good stuff you eat.
yeah. And they say that's like one of the ways for people to help get over like their food addictions is like whatever you're craving, eat the thing that you would rather crave. And over time,
Mm.
rewires your body to crave that other thing. And so, like, one of the things was like, say your thing is a cinnamon roll. You go to the bakery, you go in, you look at the cinnamon roll, and then you walk out.
Mm-hmm.
You go eat, your, beef or your hard boiled eggs or whatever other thing
Mm-hmm.
you would prefer to crave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what I do sometimes, and it's rare. It's very rare when I do that, but for some reason, I've had times when I'm like kind of wanting to eat some junk. and I'll go to the store and it hasn't happened in a long time, but I have this memory of me doing this where I go to the grocery store and I'm looking and looking and I'm like, oh, this looks good. And it's some crap, right? And I put it in my cart and then I'm like, I'm not going to eat this. And right before I leave the store, I take it back out and I walk out. And that makes me just not want it anymore. It's weird. Or I'll go as far as buying it, which I don't want to do, obviously, because who the hell wants to buy something and to throw it away? But I've done it where I buy it and then it's like, it's just the act of buying it. It's weird, right? Do you think? I mean, I don't know if that would have worked. I've done it. I've done it. I bought the thing before and then been like, I'm not going to eat that. Like, why did I buy that? I just wanted to buy it.
No, my thing, I don't know. Like I've been like this probably since my 20s is like, walking down the cookie aisle. And I'm like, I make such better cookies at home. I'll just make cookies
That's true.
and then I never do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I do the same thing. It's like, oh, I could just make this at home, but I'm not gonna, and I won't eat them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll make them if my son asks me for them. Well, all right.
I mean, it's a major production to like, pull out the mixer and do all that stuff. And then you got to clean it all up.
We're going on 2 hours, so let's talk about our book recommendation.
Yes. You go first.
Okay, so I wanted to recommend this one. It's called Eat the Yolks. It's backwards, I think, but it's actually a pretty old book. The author's Liz Wolfe, and I don't think it's very well known, so that's why I wanted to share it. She's also really funny. So everything that she talks about in here is easy to understand, right? It's not super obviously there's a lot of, there's a lot of science in here too, but the way that she explains it is, like you're talking to a friend, and she's hilarious. The whole thing is really funny, and I highly recommend Eat the Yolks. It is the first book that I read on cholesterol being good for you. So yeah. All right. What else should I say about this? That's it. That's her in the back with her chicken. Eat the yolks, people.
Yes. That is the most nutrient dense part of the egg. This is my recommendation. It's called
Understanding the Heart. That's a good one.
Understanding the Heart by Dr. Stephen Hussey. His blog is essentially dedicated to the topics of heart disease, cholesterol. He is a carnivore chiropractor, and he's also a type 1 diabetic eating a carnivore diet.
And he had a heart attack.
And he had a heart attack
Before
So I think everybody should read this book, you know, not just, you know, tell your friends, buy it for gifts, especially if they're, like, oh, I'm very afraid of cholesterol. This book had me
Yes.
mowing down my steak, adding more butter than I usually do. Like,
Hmm.
you need cholesterol. You need it.
Yes.
Not the reason that you should be worried in your life.
I think it's
Um,
important to point out that he did have a heart attack before he was carnivore.
mhm.
And so, and then when carnivore, so this is important. It's a good book. It's a very good book.
It's a very good book. And then there's 2 documentaries. The Magic
Hmm.
Pill
Oh,
is,
I love that one. It's a good
is a
one.
good one.
Very
And the
good one.
second one is called Fat, a documentary.
That, a documentary. I haven't seen that one. Is it on Netflix?
Um, I think so. I was with
I know the Magic Pill is on Netflix, right?
you know,
That's where I
Amy,
saw it.
Amy Taft. She's one of the coaches. Anyways, she and I stayed together in San Diego. We went to the Ancestral Health Symposium, and she and
Hmm.
I like rented it and watched it together, and we're just like, yeah, it's a good one.
Nice. Okay. I'll definitely look into it for sure. Okay. Well, I think we had a really good one. So ready to go. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, please remember that you can always send them to us via Substack.
You can find our podcast on Apple, Spotify. Podcast, I think, is the other one that we're on. Visit our show notes to watch Dr. Baker discuss raising his cholesterol in 24 hours and get links to our book recommendations.
I love that we're on all the platforms.
Right?
Yeah,
I
it's
figured
so
it out.
good.
Yay.
Good. So yeah. Okay. All right. Bye everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to us again.